Have you ever thought about how dangerous it is when kids can play with actual radioactive materials, swallow high-powered magnets, or set their backyard on fire, all in the name of fun? Seriously, looking at the list of these banned toys that I'm about to tell you about, I'm starting to think toy companies in the past secretly were trying to thin the herd. Who needs natural selection when you have uranium science kits and exploding toy guns? But hey, if you ever thought your childhood was rough because you didn't get the latest PlayStation, imagine being the kid whose Hannah Montana trading cards contained enough lead to poison a small village. So buckle up, hit the like button, we're diving into the most WTF children's toys ever made. Gilbert U238, the one toy that could accidentally turn your kid into the Hulk. Parents, if you ever thought picking out a toy for your kid was tough, choosing between a race car or a Barbie, congrats! At least you weren't parenting in the 1950s, the golden age of screw safety, let's see what happens. Enter the Gilbert U238 Atomic Energy Lab, brought to you by the geniuses at AC Gilbert, who basically asked, hey, why not let kids play with actual radioactive materials? What's the worst that could happen? So what did this totally safe toy include? Oh, just a bunch of radioactive isotopes, allowing kids to experiment with one of the deadliest substances known to mankind. And just to make sure parents wouldn't freak out, they slapped Safe for Children on the box. Because, writing that totally neutralizes uranium's effects. Don't worry, son, if anything happens, at least you'll glow in the dark. Cool, huh? The consequences? Oh, just a tiny chance of cancer, DNA mutations, and potentially accidentally gaining superpowers. Imagine your kid coming home from school complaining that his hair is falling out in chunks while the neighbor's dog suddenly starts barking in Russian. Obviously, the government soon realized that selling a mini nuclear reactor to children might not be the best idea. So, in 1951, they yanked this totally safe toy off the shelves. But before that, 5,000 sets were already sold, meaning there are still people out there who own their very own stash of mini uranium. So if your neighbor actually glows at night, now you know why. CSI Asbestos, detective simulator at the cost of your child's lungs. All right, any CSI fans in the house? Those crime shows where they zoom in on a single hair, add dramatic music, and then, bam, big revelation. This guy has dandruff. Awesome. And to let kids experience the thrill of forensic science. In 2007, someone thought it'd be a great idea to create the CSI Fingerprint Examination Kit. A toy that lets kids dust for prints, solve imaginary crimes, and maybe even find out whether dad really stole their candy. Just one tiny little problem. The fingerprint powder? Laced with asbestos. Yep, the silent killer of the construction industry. So what's the worst that could happen? Oh, just a slight chance of inhaling asbestos dust and earning yourself a one-way ticket to lung cancer. Nothing says future detective quite like permanently struggling to breathe, right? Even Sherlock Holmes would be like, yeah, no, this is worse than Moriarty. Obviously, once people realized this toy was handing out lung damage like Halloween candy, it was pulled from shelves in 2009. But hey, at least kids got a few minutes of detective fun before spending the rest of their lives breathing through a tube. Magnetix, toy or tiny death machine? Ever played Magnetix? No? Good. If you're still here with your intestines intact, congrats! You successfully dodged one of the most dangerous toys ever designed to trick kids into turning themselves into a human magnet death trap. Magnetix was a building toy with tiny metal balls and magnetic rods, perfect for kids to build, imagine, and if they're dumb enough, head straight to the ER. Why? Because those tiny magnets could fall out and get swallowed. One magnet? No big deal. Two? Oh boy. Welcome to the magical world of free internal perforation. Those little suckers would attract each other inside your intestine, causing deadly blockages and turning your digestive system into a medical-grade Jenga tower. Things got so bad that one child died and 27 others ended up needing emergency surgery. And guess what? None of them got a bravery medal for playing like a champ. So in 2006, the US government was like, nope, pull it off the shelves. But wait, there's more. By 2007, even more deadly magnetic sets were found, leading to a massive recall of 4 million sets. So, what's the takeaway? If you want to play with magnets, do it like a normal adult. Stick them on your fridge and move on with your life. Hannah Montana pop star card game, when poison is more popular than the music. Remember Hannah Montana? The most famous double-life teenager on Disney Channel before she transformed into Miley Cyrus, queen of tongue wagging and hip thrusting? Well, before Hannah disappeared and left Disney's PR team with permanent PTSD, she had her own card game, Hannah Montana Pop Star Card Game. Sounds innocent, right? A fun little game for Hannah Montana fans. The only problem? The cards had more lead than a bullet factory. To put it into perspective, the safe lead level in children's toys is 40 parts per million. This game, 75 times that. So you weren't just playing a card game, you were actively poisoning yourself. Who needs a long, healthy life when you can get heavy metal toxicity right now? Lead is nasty. It messes with your brain, stunts your growth, and basically turns your memory into a malfunctioning Windows XP. In other words, play with these cards too much, and you might just become the kind of person who believes the Earth is flat and that lizard people run the government. So in 2008, the CPSC, aka Consumer Product Safety Commission, was like, nope, get this toxic mess off the shelves. But by then, thousands of kids had already handled enough lead to become their own Hannah Montana villains. Moral of the story? If you want your fans to remember you forever, maybe poisoning them isn't the best marketing strategy. Easy Bake Oven, the mini oven that turned kids into BBQ experiments. Remember the Easy Bake Oven? That tiny, adorable oven that lets kids become little bakers or burn victims. Launched in 1963, it was supposed to be a fun way for children to bake cookies, cakes, and, oh yeah, accidentally roast their own fingers. But nothing beats the 2006 version, the ultimate enemy of tiny fingers worldwide. This genius design featured a front slot just big enough for little hands to slip inside, because nothing says fun like getting your fingers stuck in a 350-degree toy oven. The results? 249 kids got their hands stuck, 77 suffered burns, and 16 had second or third-degree burns. The worst case? A 5-year-old girl had to get part of her finger amputated. That's right, she didn't just lose her chance at baking, she lost her chance at playing rock, paper, scissors fairly ever again. So in 2007, Hasbro had to recall 1 million ovens. But instead of just admitting defeat, they told customers, hey, if you already bought one, call us for a fix. Like, sorry we maimed your child, but here's a plastic guard. Good luck. In the end, Easy Bake Oven didn't just teach kids how to bake. It taught them the importance of keeping all their fingers intact. Lawn darts, when backyard fun became a battle royale. Welcome to the 1950s America, where everything was amazing, except for safety regulations. Introducing lawn darts, the wholesome backyard game where you toss giant metal spears at your loved ones and hope for the best. The idea, you stand in your backyard, chuck these oversized murder darts toward a target ring a few feet away. Sounds innocent, right? Wrong. Because one bad throw and you've just turned Family Game Night into the Hunger Games Suburban Edition. And of course, the results were as bad as you'd expect. In just 8 years, 6,100 injuries were reported due to lawn darts. The worst case? In 1987, a 7-year-old girl was killed when a lawn dart soared over a fence and struck her in the head. Yep, straight out of a Final Destination movie. After that, America took immediate action by waiting a whole year before banning them in 1988. Good job, government. Canada followed in 1989 because, you know, they didn't want backyard BBQs turning into emergency room visits. So yeah, lawn darts, a shining example of how humans can accidentally invent the most dangerous backyard toy ever. Snacktime Cabbage Patch Doll, the tiny hair-eating monster. The 90s, the era when everything had to be automatic. Cars, automatic. Game saves, automatic. Dolls, automatic too, but instead of singing or blinking, this one just ate things. Meet Snacktime Cabbage Patch Doll, the only doll in history that could chew food forever. No off switch, no stop button. Once it starts chewing, it never stops. Sounds like an episode of Black Mirror, Toy Edition, doesn't it? The problem? It didn't just eat fake plastic snacks, it also ate hair and fingers. Some kids were just innocently brushing their doll's hair, and guess what? The doll started eating their hair. Others got curious and stuck a finger inside. And boom, insta regret, pain, screaming, pure nightmare fuel. Basically, a Stephen King horror movie, but starring a chubby-faced doll with an appetite for destruction. By 1997, the company finally realized that maybe a doll that enjoys snacking on children was a bad idea. So they recalled over 100,000 of them and shut it down for good. But let's be real, Snacktime Cabbage Patch Doll wasn't broken. It was just hungry. Sky Dancers, the toy that thought it was a missile. Next, let's talk about a toy that confused kids, terrified parents, and kept emergency room doctors busier than a Black Friday sale. Sky dancers, or as I like to call them, flying death spinners. The concept sounded adorable. Pull the string, and your lovely little doll gracefully takes flight like a ballet dancer in the sky. But in reality, it spun out of control, dive bombing straight into your face at Mach 3. These things didn't just fly. They launched like rogue missiles from a broken Iron Man suit. The result? Over 150 injuries, scratched corneas, cracked teeth, mild concussions, and enough facial stitches to make your Christmas morning feel like an episode of Grey's Anatomy, if you know what I'm saying. By 2000, after 8.9 million sky dancers had officially set a record for child-inflicted injuries, the company decided to pull them from shelves. But I guarantee you, there are still a few lurking in basements, waiting for their moment to ruin another childhood. Power Wheels, the toy that thought it was a flamethrower. All right, folks, now let's talk about Power Wheels, the toy that proves kids can drive before they can tie their shoes. The ultimate American dream in miniature form, where you can watch a 3-year-old cruise in a tiny Jeep at the speed of a turtle, but with the destruction potential of a riot. But here's where it gets interesting. Some Power Wheels decided to be more than just toys. They became mobile fire hazards. 700 reports of electrical components overheating, 150 explosions, and 9 kids learning how to play with fire, literally. Oh, and let's not forget the cars that refused to stop, as if they had just escaped from the Fast and the Furious and were auditioning for the next sequel. The damage, 22 homes burned, totaling $300,000 in damages, and in 1998, a historic recall of 10 million Power Wheels. And the best part? Fisher-Price still encouraged consumers to keep using them, because who wouldn't want a toy car that might explode at any moment, right? Water Wiggle, craziest faucet toy. So, picture this, it's 1962. The fine folks at Wham-O, who previously gave us totally safe things like the Frisbee and the hula hoop, aka the OG ways to knock out your siblings, decided kids needed something new. Their brilliant idea? Water Wiggle, a plastic nozzle that attached to your garden hose and went absolutely feral the second you turned on the water. The concept was simple, refreshing summer fun. The reality? A rogue, high-pressure tube that thrashed around like it was auditioning for an action movie. Kids would try to chase it, but plot twist. It was chasing them. It bopped them in the face, whacked them in the gut, and occasionally launched itself into orbit like it was late for a NASA mission. Let's see, did someone at Wham-O test this thing before selling millions of them? Probably not, because by the 1970s, parents were realizing that their innocent backyard splash party had turned into an impromptu boxing match with a hose. And surprise? Turns out giving kids a water-powered flail wasn't the best idea. In 1975, tragedy struck when a 3-year-old boy suffocated after the nozzle got lodged in his mouth. Then, in 1978, another child suffered the same fate, and Wham-O was like, okay, maybe this thing is a little too murdery. So in 1978, they pulled the plug and recalled every last one. The Water Wiggle was officially recalled, and parents everywhere breathed a sigh of relief. Moral of the story? If your childhood toys were actively hostile to you, would you still play with those nice things? Austin Magic Pistol, the toy that made the FBI nervous. And finally, let's talk about the Austin Magic Pistol, the toy that proves America's love for weapons started before kids even learned how to read. Here's the idea, a toy gun that shoots plastic balls. But instead of using a spring or batteries like normal people, some genius thought, why not add explosions? So they went ahead and used calcium carbide, a chemical that reacts with water to create acetylene gas. A gas so flammable, it could probably ignite your hopes and dreams. You see, kids today have Nerf guns, but kids in the 1940s had a toy that could land you on a terrorist watch list. This thing didn't just shoot plastic balls, it shot sparks, flames, and possibly your will to live. It startled users in the most literal way possible, because it exploded in their hands. Some states in the US quickly classified it as an actual weapon. That's right. If you owned one, you weren't just a kid. You were a James Bond villain in training. End result? Recalled faster than you clear your browser history when your mom walks in. And there you have it, our stroll through the most memorable, or rather terrifying, toys that were so bad even the government had to step in. If you ever wondered why kids today just play on iPads, well, maybe it's because old school toys had a habit of exploding, or attacking you, or both. If you find this video interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. It will be a great motivation for us. Are there any dangerous toys that we haven't included in this list? Comment below. Okay, see you soon.